Welcome to the Foundation Series, your deep dive into startup compensation with industry leaders from across the startup world. Join me, Matt McIlvaine, a people operations leader turned compensation specialist, as we uncover the strategies and practices driving success in tech startups around the world. Hear insights from heads of people, founders, and experts as we explore how to build robust compensation frameworks that not only fuel growth and retention, but do so in the dynamic startup environment that we all know and love. Let's get into it. Andrew, great to have you on the podcast. I feel like I say this of all of my guests, but it's because I genuinely invite people on here that I have followed for some time and really respect in the space, and I think are just doing really fascinating and interesting things, but none more so than yourself. So I'd love you to just spend a minute introducing yourself for those who maybe aren't as familiar with you as I am.
Well, thank you. Really appreciate being on your program. Thanks for asking me. Great to connect this way. I'm an HR guy. I've been doing this work for 30 years, in-house, the vast majority of that at giant enterprise companies like Pepsi and GE, where I learned how to do HR, air quote, right. I had a startup experience really early in my life and career during the dot-com boom and bust. And so, took a company global and then took it out of business. And had a lot of stops along the way, really culminating with a CHRO job at what is now an S&P 500 company that I helped take public twice through a bunch of M&A and PE sponsor entries and exits. And I pulled my parachute back in 2018 when headquarters moved from California to Arizona to Dallas, Texas. And then that let me, a little bit of flexibility as all my equity vested and got a silver parachute, and wrote a book and started consulting and advising. And now I'm doing all sorts of work, which is mostly facing other HR professionals. So really, I think of the work that I do now as growing CHROs in a number of different ways.
Andrew, today I'm really keen to talk to you about how to know when your comp practices are actually working. And I'm gonna open with something that I think is starting to be questioned a lot more lately. It might be a spicy one. I don't know. Let's see where we go with it. But it's this concept of whether or not we should even be asking questions about compensation in engagement surveys. I know there's a lot of, the question of engagement surveys in general comes up as to should we be doing them. But what are your thoughts? Is an engagement survey or that sort of a vehicle a great way for assessing whether or not your comp practices are working? And then, let's see where we go from there.
Yeah, Matt, I think the short answer to the last question of, do engagement surveys work for assessing comp? I'd say there's more risk than reward. Like any engagement survey, if you're asking a question, be prepared to need to come with an action on the back end of it. And across all the Gallup questions and all the Culture Amp questions and all the many surveys and lots of little variations on compensation is almost always one of, if not the lowest rated question, right? Do you feel like you're paid fairly? Do you feel like you're paid market rate, or, something like that? And it tends to be a little less than 50% is positive. And so now you've asked that question. Now it's going to be at the bottom of your list of the 38 or 12 or 72 questions that you asked. And are you going to do something about it? Does that not so happy answer actually tell you that you should? Most companies are targeting the 50th or the 60th or the 75th percentile of the market. And so if you're targeting a higher position within the market, you might think that your people would be a little happier than if you're targeting, middle of the market. But think about it. If you're targeting the middle of the market, half of your people should probably say, I'm not thrilled with my comp. I feel like I'm paid a little bit below, because they are, right? The normal distribution, if you're the middle of the market for companies like yours at the same size, stage, industry, geography, this goes back to a productivity and efficiency discussion. Are you well served by paying above market rates? You're now paying more for your talent. Maybe you're getting higher quality talent. Hopefully you are. That might also indicate where, geographically your team is based. But there's a lot to unpack there. And I think there is this Pandora's box. If you ask the question, now all the scary things come out of the box that you've got to go deal with. And, comp is scary enough already. And it's fraught enough already that I would suggest that, the short answer is no. It's not helpful to have it on an engagement survey. It is helpful to have good data sources as to what market is. It is helpful to understand why people are leaving. It is helpful to understand what your high performers need. But an engagement survey feels like a really crude and potentially dangerous device to ask about comp.
Yeah, I would agree. I think like it naturally just comes out of the box, I think, on most of the survey providers that you mentioned. But there's a real valuable reason there for rethinking whether or not all of the questions, and certainly this one with respect to comp, is the right one to be asking. And yeah, what are you going to do about it if it comes back positive or negative or whatever? Like what's the outcome you're hoping to achieve? Let's switch things up then to maybe like what are more effective ways to know if the comp practices that you have in place are actually doing what they're supposed to be doing? What do you tend to see companies adopt or should be adopting in the space?
Yeah, maybe more of a should be than are.
Yeah.
I like to encourage HR leaders to create what's called a people plan, a strategic people plan. So the finance team will create your budget and your forecast. The CEO and the board will develop your vision and your value creation plan and your exit strategy if you're a PE company, or whatever the longer term goal is. Your HR leader or people in culture, whatever we choose to call ourselves today, we should document what are we trying to accomplish and what are we going to do? What initiatives, projects, programs will we undertake to do that? And so comp is a thing that's going to happen anyway, right? Like payroll is going to happen anyway, and payroll doesn't necessarily have to have a purpose. It just needs to run. If you are doing something focused in comp, and not everybody will, so let's admit that first. You might want to cherry pick and say, we want to do something special in comp for our go-to-market, front end team, or we want to do something special in comp for our engineering, product, and design team for a different reason, or whatever group is special that needs some special attention. Set out your goals up front. If you're doing something interesting or special or focused, articulate those goals before you do the thing, and then just go back and assess whether or not you got the goal that you'd set out to do. So maybe that's percentage of sales team members that met quota. Did your new comp plan achieve that? Of course, there's other extraneous, exogenous things happening all around them. There are other reasons why people made it or didn't make it, but just keep score. Did we ship the products that we said that we would? Did we have the releases that we said that we would? Did your product roadmap hit the goals that you had for it? So if you're doing something special with some group, check it out. More generally, though, you could track who are my top performers and did they stick around? Who are my bottom performers? Did they legitimately get better, or more likely, did they depart? Because that's what you should probably be incenting, is the top performers stick around and your bottom performers don't. And so you could do something as simple as a red, yellow, green light assessment on talent movement that could get you, some pretty interesting results. Like what was that? Rather than just running the comp process that says, okay, our budget was 3.7%, and we came in at 3.8, and here was our distribution. Well, who cares? What you care is, did 98% of my 5 performers stick around from one year to the next? And if not, what's realistic, and what are we going to do about it next year?
Yeah, I love it. I agree completely with, at the end of the day, you want to get the lay of the land and having some measures of what that looks like today, and understanding whether or not, they're going to change over time with the plan that you look to implement, and some of the hypotheses that you might have that would, help grow performance or maintain high performers and things like that. Maybe a closing one for me. How do you feel about exit interviews or exit surveys as a way of gauging compensation, I often find that a departure is not typically a one thing, like a one reason, not driven by one reason. How do you find, or is it an effective method for measuring whether or not comp is a driver or working effectively in the business?
Yeah. I feel like exit surveys, exit interviews are a interesting and often useful data point. If you can get the data point, why not? Like, go get it. Now, some organizations have, HR generalists and business partners having live or on Zoom exit interviews with a large percentage of people, and all sorts of complaints and other stuff comes up, or people just try not to burn a bridge and whitewash the conversation. The way that I would prefer, and often encourage people to do it, is make it a low lift for the departing worker, make it a low lift for your HR team, and gather whatever data somebody's willing to share and get that in a structured format. So instead of having a conversation that then you're depending on a GPT to analyze for you, send a survey out and send a second or third if they didn't respond, and ask for the feedback. And so make it easy. I saw one actually for a client that had like 53 questions on the exit survey and multiple long answers and 18 choices with branched logic, and just like keep it simple. And it's a data point that could be useful. But in terms of comp, I don't know. If you're a small organization, or if you have a really specific type of worker that you need, like I worked with a quantum computing company, and there's only so many quantum computing engineers in the world. And so if somebody leaves, you want to know exactly what the deal was. So in those cases, go have the live conversation. Like the CEO might want to have that live conversation. But if you're in an organization with tens of thousands of workers that, it's more of a mass job, then a survey is a much better way to go.
You're getting a standardized response. You're getting, something that you can kind of number crunch on. I like it. I think it makes sense, to keep something that's more scalable for that type of role. And then when you are focused on a more niche, there's only a handful in the world, you really do want to go deep with it and truly understand how you can make sure that your practices are working. I also love the idea of, and I think the theme for me coming out of this episode is, the surveys are great, but, what are you going to change about, things if the results aren't what you want? And really it's about, are you on track with the measures that are important to you? So, for some people that might be things like how many of our high performers stick around. It might be, how adherent are we to the market, our comp ratio, things like that. But it's been some good takeaways. Any parting words or word of wisdom for heads of people in this space before we wrap things up?
Yeah. Well, thanks again for having me. Really appreciate the conversation. I can tell you're a pro and a practitioner, and you're embedded in all this, Matt. I think the strongest suggestion that I'd have to people leaders and comp leaders is to ground what you're doing in the business. Now, often we stop there and we say grounded in the business. What does that mean? I have spent the majority of the last 5 to 7 years helping people understand what that actually means. So I'd suggest understand what your business is trying to accomplish, what the most important goals and priorities are, and not like fake goals like save cost, be a great place to work, sell more. Like, get specific about what those goals and priorities are, and connect your work really directly, really obviously to those most important things. And yeah, there's some other keep the business stuff running, going, like, payroll, and you're going to do benefits enrollment. Yeah, you're going to investigate some stuff, but a sizable slice. If the work of your department is an iceberg, make sure that the stuff that is above the waterline is like directly connected to those most important things, and you'll be a star. So few HR people are thinking like that. We're off on HR Island, working on HR things, working on all the parts of the iceberg that are below the water level. So make sure that your stakeholders see you working on the things that they care about, and make sure that you are working on the things that will help your business be successful, and that'll help you be more successful.
Strong words of wisdom. Andrew, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. This is, as all of them have been, a very insightful interview. I appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, Matt.
Amazing. Thanks for joining us on another edition of the Foundation Series. Make sure to head over to our website to subscribe to the Foundation Series for monthly editions featuring future interviews on startup compensation. In each edition, we'll explore the different strategies, trends, and challenges faced by startups around the world. If you have a burning topic you'd like me to cover or a standout guest that you want to hear from, drop me an email so I can dive deeper into the compensation topics that matter most to you. Join me next time as we continue to uncover the strategies and practices driving success in global tech startups around the world. Thanks for listening.